good morning, my wonderful friends and TGIF. Woo, we made it to Friday. I agree with creating a homestead in Colorado. She said every morning. No update is pretty triggering. What came out on the news last night by local reporter Nick was very disheartening. We're going to go through that. But first, I want to tell everyone hola and a very special good morning to our friend Mama She. You know why it's a special good morning for her? Because our wonderful friend Mama She is celebrating her birthday with us. You are just a wonderful person all the way through. Thank you so much for spending your birthday with us and being such a huge member of this community and a wonderful friend to me and all of us. Now, I'm surprised Pam Tate's not here because she's been telling us since Christmas that today's her birthday. I was going to sing her happy birthday too. Paging Pam. Paging Pam. Hold on one second. Reality Win says, Brooks, mine was Monday. I got a new TV. You got a new TV for your birthday? Well, lucky duck. Happy birthday to our, belated to Reality Wins. And if you see Pam, let me know, because I told her happy birthday on Facebook. She's not in the Crime Lines and Lies Facebook, because I was going to make a post for her, but I did send her an invite. So if someone sees Pam, get my attention, because I even wrote it on my calendar. I wanted to make sure I told her happy birthday today. She's a very, very sweet lady. Speaking of very, very sweet and sassy, spicy, sometimes a little salty, we have our good friend Muscles and Mascara backstage, and she has a lot to say about the case of Sebastian. Also want to say thank you to the new members. Journey to Justice is back. Mary's a new member. Eileen Driscoll has been a member for 3 months. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you so much. You guys are the absolute best. DC Primetime is saying happy birthday. Let's have a huge welcome for our friend Muscles and Mascara. Welcome, my wonderful friend. And how are you on this fine Friday?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Doing good.
Good.
Hot has been a member for 8 months, so she's doing good. We're in good company here, are we not, Muscles?
We are. And I want you to check out DT Driver's comment just now.
Let me see.
He says, let the cussing begin, go Muscles. He knows me too well.
That's him. Well, look who just made it in. I guess Pam thought she could sleep in on her birthday. We weren't going to allow that, were we, everybody? Pam is here. Let's make sure and tell our friend Pam happy birthday and that we love you very much, Pam. Kat is probably wishing she never made that happy birthday intro thing for me. She made it for the CLL 1 year birthday of the channel. And well, I use it all the time. That was 3 in a row. Yeah, Pam, if you weren't in here, I was gonna stalk you. I even had it, I even had a reminder on my Google calendar that today's your birthday. All right, Russell, speed me up. What do you think is going on with the case of Sebastian?
Gosh, I don't know. This gets weirder by the minute, honestly. There's so much going on. It's scary because I keep thinking that all this has happened really close to me, and I don't like how this feels anymore. Um, I think that I think that I mean, obviously, I think the mother knows something. I think that that's my opinion. Um, I can't put my fingers on it, Brooks. I can't. I can't. I don't know what's happened. Do you have a theory? I mean, have you really come to a conclusion on your theory yet?
When I first came across it on Trev's Facebook, his personal page,
Hmm.
um, I was like, poor little guy, he probably wandered off somewhere
Hmm.
and they'll find him fast, which normally they do.
Sure.
I mean, dead to nuts, if a child wanders off, they find them.
Yep.
Between dogs, drones, helicopters, grid searches, the whole 9 yards, they find them 100%. Okay.
Absolutely.
As time went on and I started reading different articles, I got a hold of yes, no. She said Trev is the godfather of this case. Yes. I got a hold of the godfather and I said, I've been, keeping up on your channel. I was like tagging him in different things where people were talking about it. So, get some traffic to his channel. And I said, am I reading this correct? They have no security system on a $600,000 house.
Yeah. I don't buy that either.
I
Not a
said,
little bit.
and those dogs can't find him. They didn't just bring out one old limp puppy. They brought out dogs,
Hmm.
droves of dogs, scent tracking dogs, and there's no scent of him. Not even taking out the trash like she claims he did.
Well, and I think for me that's I think that for me that's the biggest thing is they couldn't get a scent of him at all, and that just I mean that doesn't make any sense, especially since he lives there. On the outside period, they couldn't get any kind of anything. So, and
Going
I
down
and I don't believe the situation
foot.
about the cameras.
I can't figure that out. I cannot figure that out. And okay, the cameras, and the name of today's show is Lights question mark, cameras question mark, and no action. What would prevent you from looking for your child? I'll start with you, Muscles.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. And I understand why they don't want you going out and doing things like that because it's the situation, of course, but there's nobody that's going to stop me, and I sure as heck ain't going to be 3 hours away or ever how many hours away it is that they are now. I'm certainly not going to do that either, and there's certainly not going to be people that are coming to my community and run me away from my own friggin' home. I can tell you that right now.
Not when you have a child that's out there somewhere. No way.
No, absolutely not. There's no way in the world you could get me away from my house, to be quite honest, and my feet would be bloody and blistered and everything else too because I wouldn't stop. I mean, I think that any real people, real mothers actually would, and fathers for that matter, not just mothers, but real parents, are not going to just go away while their kid is missing. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. There's none of this makes any sense. And that's why it scares the crap out of me because absolutely nothing makes sense in this case again. And it's almost like 2.0. It is. And I hate the thoughts of that. It makes me sick.
I don't like the rinse repeat copy paste from TBI. But I get their strategy and I get why they say the things that they say. Because well there's a lot of goofy people out on the internet. Okay?
Definitely. Definitely. Definitely there is.
I mean, I'm just waiting for Jody Sue Brown to get involved.
Oh, Jesus. We can't have it.
Mm-mm.
Do you think that there's any what do you make of the 911 or non 911 call? What do you make of that?
I just think it's another oddity. It's another the math isn't mathing. I mean,
Yeah.
I look at this. What is verified? Katie was at home. That's verified.
Mhm.
Katie got the hell out of Dodge with Chris. Katie skipped the vigil. Katie, I'm going to flat out say she lied on Nancy Grace's the interview they did with Nancy Grace. They went to Cracker Barrel for Easter. They're sitting out. They say they're so scared of the public, but on Easter they're sitting at the damn Cracker Barrel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, order you a Christmas ham from Instacart, have it thrown in the damn driveway, and eat that shit. You don't need to sit there at the Cracker Barrel. I'm not saying that they can't eat, but like not a care in the world. And the two men that are involved, we have Seth, easily verified he was at work. He said he was. I mean, he's on camera all day. If Chris Proudfoot was at work when Sebastian went missing or out of town, that should be easily verified. So
Yep.
at this
Just
point, all we really know is that, yeah, Chris Proudfoot is not a good dude. I don't. Somebody who thinks they're going to take a belt to my child, they're going to be wearing it around their damn neck.
facts. Facts.
But I mean, what we do know is Katie was the one at home. I think about what Seth said. This again is something that has happened to Sebastian under her watch. And what a lot he has had to go through in his um, time on this planet. He was recently diagnosed with autism, recently put on sleeping pills, which that stuff will make you freaking sleepwalk.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the thing for me is it's just that we know nothing, and I understand that they have to keep things close to the vest as things progress. I understand that too, but we just don't get anything, and that's I think that's why I say 2.0 again because I just don't understand why we get why there's absolutely nothing. Like there's and it's this like you said the rinse repeat from TBI, and I understand that they got to do that kind of stuff to a degree, but at the same time, again, I go back to is this a case where we have somebody coming by taking children. Like, okay, this kid's 15 years old. Sebastian is 15. He's not a small child like like I talk about Summer. She was 5. There's incredibly two different sizes of children here we're talking about. But is there something going on here in Tennessee that we Tennessee residents need to know about? Like this is becoming a really big problem, and this happens everywhere across the United States. Children go missing. I understand that, but it just seems to me that there's a lot more things that have been going on that we're not aware of, and it really is concerning because of the all how connecting I-40 is to all the different states and things around too. That starts to concern me a lot. We have the missing uh, girls from Kingsport. Like, there's just so much going on right here around us that it's really concerning. And just the thoughts of that makes me sick. My kid's 15. I have a 15-year-old son.
DT
It's
Driver has
scary.
been saying that that's a huge trafficking corridor. Little Bit, who was on panel yesterday, and a fellow Okie, has a theory. She said, I think she handed Sebastian off to Chris when she left that morning, and he put him in the Cumberland River. Woo!
Mm.
Liplock has a theory. She said, I think some sort of weird disciplinary action that went down completely arrived that Katie locked Sebastian outside. I have wondered about that and wondered about that and wondered about that. We have heard about the extreme punishments in that home, the belt, the keeping him out of cabinets and stuff, locking the food away. I am so against locking up food.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And me too.
I cannot stand that. I don't know why anyone would do it. Yeah, we know kids are expensive and we know groceries are expensive. But when they see, I mean, how anxious would a child have to be sit there and have to count the minutes to when they can eat again?
Yeah. That's crazy to me, especially a 15-year-old girl and boy, especially. I realize that like there can be bottomless pits. I completely understand that, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to deny my kid any food. And the other question that I have is, I think that it's a good theory to think about with being locked out, and did she lock him out? However, the other problem I have with that is why is the scent not there then? Because he would have then had to have walked away or something, right? But for him not to continue to be there. So I don't understand why there's no scent there.
There's got to be a scent. If he
Yeah.
truly got out of that house, sleepwalking, whatever the scenario, just didn't want to be there anymore. And why, when she was harping on how, the snacks were pissing her off to no end, why was there an abundance of snacks bought that weekend for him?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the weird part because she brings that up in that interview, like just and unsolicited brings that point up about snacks and things like that. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, let's get to the latest, but before we do it, the most recent update, let's thank our friend Christine Alaska for making it rain in here. Grab your umbrellas. Okay, Nick Barris, who he's kind of been losing some fans lately, but I think he's doing a tremendous job on here. I really do. A lot of people think that, he shouldn't have put the video out of the two lights where the TBI told Seth that was actually a trash truck or whatever. But when he cornered one of the law enforcement about it, he said, "Is this evidence?" And he wouldn't answer.
Hmm.
So I think there's a little more to it. Let's go through what Nick had to say yesterday, and then I'm going to put the link up.
Authorities say they will not rule out foul play, but they will not say that there is a criminal investigation into the Sebastian Rogers case.
Okay, right there we have it. Rexy, thank you for the super sticker. She says, was Chris in Mississippi in his camper that night? According to him, he was, and that they had a 3-hour phone call. Have you ever had a 3-hour phone call with your husband?
I absolutely have not. No. Love my husband, but no. No.
That late at night, after you've had the colossal popcorn, you've been shopping your ass off all weekend, went to the Texas, whatever, the restaurant, all that stuff. Wouldn't you be ready to go to sleep? I
Well,
still
yeah,
don't know why he couldn't bring his ass home on the weekends, leave the camper there for work, and just come home on the weekends.
yeah, I think that's really strange too. I question the 3-hour conversation. It's really convenient that he was 3 hours, and I think I've seen somebody say 3 hours and 37 minutes, doorstep to doorstep. I think that's really strange that they were on the phone for that long, and I also think it's really strange how their entire weekend was just completely packed full of activities. Like it seems like it's a common theme if you stop and think about it. Um, the day Summer goes missing, and I'm not trying to compare cases, and please don't anybody come at me for it, but it was just it was a day full of activities again, just something, and it's like why all the stuff added into it? Why was there this jam-packed weekend of things that they had to do, and then the 3-hour conversation? And I'm like you, Bruce, why not come home on the weekends? Why were you staying there so long? Unless if he was working on a Saturday, and maybe he was. Maybe he worked on a Saturday from time to time, and his only off day was on a Sunday, and it didn't make sense for him to drive that far. I get it. That would make complete sense. But it, I don't know. I just questioned the 3-hour conversation.
Yeah, the 3-hour phone call and unusual days, just like Kat said, unusual days when a person goes missing, particularly a child, is always a huge red flag to me.
Yeah,
I can't.
I agree.
I mean, we know in the case of Summer Wells, it's a very unusual day.
Yep, absolutely. Just jam-packed full of stuff. And is that their way of trying to come up with a story to where it seems like there's no time in between to do anything nefarious or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're trying to do, but I'm like you, that just seems very strange.
because he's saying it's 3 hours and 37 minutes exactly from where he was. I looked at the map, Horn Lake, Mississippi, where he keeps the RV. It's on here, Google, it just says 3 hours and 44 minutes. And again, what I want to know is if your child goes missing, are you going to call somebody 3 hours away, or are you going to get off your dead ass and go knocking on doors, calling 911 and getting people that can actually help you? Not sitting there waiting on dum-dum to come up from Horn Lake, Mississippi. A lot can happen in 3 hours. And that's if he instantly put his shoes on and ran out the door.
Yeah, that's weird for me. I I would be, I think that it's normal for people to, run around and look. You're not going to make an assumption automatically that my kid's missing just because he's not laid in his bed, right? I mean, we all can agree to that. And I don't think anybody would question it taking 10 or 15 minutes for them to come to a conclusion that, oh my God, he's really not around and I don't see him. But I'm not going to call my husband who's 3 hours away from me and tell him first. And I'm certainly not going to expect him to three-way call the sheriff's office. And you can use any excuse that you want to about calling the sheriff and all this stuff. No, you can use all that you want to. I want if I have nothing to do with anything that's happened to my son, I want the shit recorded. I want that to be something that they can play back and hear. I want them to know how hysterical I am because I didn't do anything with my kid. I want my kid found.
This makes more sense to me than anything. Thank you a little bit for the super sticker. She said, can we vet that Chris wasn't allowed at the home per CPS? I think Nancy Grace said it. She alluded to it, and we have heard this in other cases, hence why he wasn't coming to his own damn house on the weekends. He's only 3 hours away. You get off work on Friday. Hell, he's a foreman. He can cut out early. He's not on the same time clock as the other guys. Get his ass home to his own house, or did he take that RV down there until this CPS stuff went away?
That's a really good point. Maybe that is what's going on. We certainly aren't going to hear the truth from Chris, so that's a very good possibility. Very good. And it makes more sense, don't it? I mean, it does.
That makes sense. So Sebastian's gone. So it's okay for old Chrissy Poo to come home. There's no way for us to verify anything because CPS records are sealed with good reason. But that makes more sense to me than anything. Big round of applause to you, little bit.
Yeah.
Out foul play, but they will not say that there is a criminal investigation into the Sebastian Rogers case. Why not? Well, I talked to District Attorney Ray Whitley about what it might take to perhaps make an arrest. Sebastian disappeared from his Hendersonville home more than 6 weeks ago.
Look at my big mouth interrupting already. The DA wouldn't even be entertaining an arrest if there's nothing suspicious or foul going on.
Agreed. Absolutely agree.
And I'm glad the DA is speaking out so soon in this case. I like when the DAs jump ahead of it. Unlike in another case we know, but I'm not going to bring it up.
Since then, professionals and volunteers searching for the 15-year-old have found nothing, no trace. Have you found evidence of Sebastian yourself when you've been out there? No. So how does a teen with autism walking from a home barefoot in the middle of the night just with a flashlight disappear? Experts say children rarely simply vanish completely on their own. Could others be involved in Sebastian's case?
We have not cleared anyone, but we have absolutely no evidence to support foul play.
Though,
shouldn't it be easy to clear them then? I totally get where you're coming from. We have not cleared anyone. Of course, we're hearing the normal police jargon. Everything's on the table. Everyone's a suspect. But, you know, like I said, why would the DA even be entertaining an arrest if he simply walked out of his house without a trace, without a scent? Not one person. Some of those houses are upwards almost $1 million. You think they don't have
Yeah,
an camera on their house?
I mean, yeah, come on. And how do you not have security when you work for a security company? I mean, that's just dumb. I'm sorry. Don't believe any of that. But it don't make any sense to me why the scent thing makes no sense to me. And are they just not telling us? You know what I mean? I feel like we're just being left out in the dark when it comes to that because it just doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense at all. There should be a trace of him somewhere.
There should be some trace somewhere. They're saying it themselves. This isn't my speculation. The dogs didn't sniff him anywhere.
That's crazy.
Couldn't even get a good path as to where he would have walked to. Now, I think the most suspicious thing in the case is the no evidence period.
Agreed. Yeah. And
Colossal
again,
porn, Chris out of town, CPS. We already know that there was issues in the home. We got that.
absolutely. Yeah.
The absolute no evidence really, really, really has me. Mama She, you shouldn't be leaving me super stickers. Today's your birthday. I'm going to spank you. You want a birthday spanking, don't you? She says, my 8-year-old autistic boy is an eloper and he always puts his shoes on when he leaves. He will even put his jacket on. This is something Seth talked about. He said he does not walk out he doesn't leave that house without shoes and socks. And this is going to be another one of those where they say the CPS investigation bleeds over into this.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. That's exactly what I was. Yeah, that's what I'm afraid. The similarities in this is scary. It's freaking scary.
And this would not be the first case we have come across that Child Protective Services were weighing in hard on a family and then poof.
Wow.
And does this guy look like Colin Farrell to you?
Yeah, he does actually. You're right, he does.
Gaelic needs to teach him an Irish accent. He could pass as a stunt double.
Oh, they certainly do have theories. So what would it take to call this now a criminal investigation? General Whitley tells me there has to be something, physical evidence, blood, Sebastian's clothing, a flashlight, or security video, or an eyewitness implicating someone.
They have nothing. They don't have any clothing. They don't have an eyewitness that saw him. They don't have any security cameras, scents from the dogs, nothing.
And how? How? I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. I don't believe that.
But at this point, the simple fact is there's nothing. But that's not to say that can't change. And General Whitley says he stays in contact with authorities, ready to prosecute if it does. Sumner County EMA Director Ken Widener says his crews are on call 24/7, ready to go when investigators contact them with new leads on potential evidence.
And anytime the sheriff's office indicates or TBI indicates where you've got an area of interest that we need to search, we're ready to go.
You can see the sophistication.
That's pretty damn sophisticated if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree.
He said the TBI says this is an area of interest that you need to go search. He goes, well, right out there. Look at that map. This puts things into a different perspective for me.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Now, I mean, it might only be, from my thumb to my index finger when I put it up on my computer screen, but that's miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, acres upon acre upon acre upon acre. They have been searching for this boy. Kids don't vanish Doesn't work that way.
That's right. You're exactly right. And the fact, because she went, quote unquote, her words, looking around, correct? She got in her car and was looking around, trying to find him. So why don't we have any kind of understanding as to where she went? Why do we not have the video footage of her car? I mean, God knows we look at Idaho 4 and we had pictures of cars going down the road and through at gas stations and everywhere else. So there's no pictures of her car anywhere. It was not captured to where we can see where she went to actually go, quote unquote, search for him.
That is such a good point. And again, not to cross cases, it's just an example. For the people that still blame Tyler Vaughn in the abduction of Michael Vaughn, I don't get it, but they do. Law enforcement knows everywhere he was. They can track his movements around the house via his phone. He was seen outside yelling for Michael. He was seen outside asking neighbors, have you seen Michael? They have him on camera running around at the splash pad and stuff like that, trying to find Michael. So why can't they clear her? They can at least say something as simple as, they're not a focus of our investigation. We've heard that before. I'm not really looking for the word cleared because they don't really use that terminology, but to say, we can't clear anyone and we have zero evidence. WTF?
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that obviously they've probably looked at all that stuff and everything, and they probably do know. But if there's no evidence of foul play and you don't suspect them, then why don't we get to see that? Like, because we should have something to say, if you saw this vehicle at whatever time in the morning and, whatever, then this is not something that, this is not a suspect on our list or what, just something, so that if there is somebody that may have captured something, they could go back and look and say, okay, well, they've cleared her. That's not her, whatever, all that's been taken care of. But we don't know anything. And I'm sorry, I understand that. But keeping things close to the vest during an investigation is very important. I understand every single bit of that. The problem that I have is, though, we know absolutely nothing. So what we have to do is everyone in the state of Tennessee at this very moment has to wonder if my kid goes outside and plays in the front yard, what's going to happen to him? And that's bullshit. As residents of the state of Tennessee, as residents of people around this area that I live in, specifically in Hawkins County, we deserve to know something, that we are safe and our children are safe. Being safe is relative. I get it. Anything can happen at any time and anywhere. I know that. But the point I'm making is all of this is happening right around our area, and we deserve to know. We deserve better than this. We deserve to know.
I can guarantee no one's going to come on your property without getting their ass whipped, so your child is safe.
No, well, I can promise you that too.
We're not going to worry about your son. Your husband, maybe. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, true statement.
Are on call 24/7, ready to go when investigators contact them with new leads on potential evidence.
And anytime the sheriff's office indicates or TBI indicates where you've got an area of interest that we need to search, we're ready to go.
You can see the sophisticated mapping system showing the ground they've covered. Sadly, to date, no confirmed sightings and no indication whatsoever of what happened to Sebastian. Authorities still assume that Sebastian is alive and that he will be found safe. If that's not the case, then his body must be found. Without it or any other physical evidence, we may never know what happened to the teen.
No physical evidence. Nene, thank you for the super sticker. Also, Angel's making it rain in here. I will play the song in a second. Just Cat said, if Summer's case is a criminal investigation because foul play has not been ruled out, then why not Sebastian's? Again, this is TBI's words, not mine. Their tweet to Court K in August. They said, absolutely, this is a criminal investigation because we cannot rule out foul play. You think maybe it's just early in this investigation?
I think I think so, but at the same time, it can't be that early. You know what I mean? Because if it's still too early and it's 6 weeks ago and you can't determine whether or not it's criminal or not, at this point, I'm like, that scares me even further because that makes me feel like that we're way behind the eight ball here if we can't determine it's criminal or not.
100%. And this was an amazing clip. I didn't get through all of it yesterday. I got interrupted because the Wi-Fi people were here. They cut the damn line. I had to use my phone. That's the reason everybody got to see OJ actually in a good mood yesterday. I love this reporter, and I love when he brings up certain questions he asked the authorities.
Dive into some of the big stories that we've been covering, and this offers us an opportunity to really provide context and depth to some of the headlines that you've been seeing here on WSMV. I'm Amanda Hara. This is Michael Warwick, and he has been covering extensively the search for Sebastian Rogers, which is now in its fifth week.
Yeah, more than a month. He went missing February 26th. It's believed he wandered from his home, walked from his home, may have been barefoot, and here we are.
They can give up on that wandering off shit. Let me tell you why. Not a trace of him. I can't count on 2 hands and 2 feet with my piggy toes how many children in Tennessee have wandered off, gotten lost, and been recovered. Ran away from home, everything. The only time we have this issue is when something is foul AF. Your turn, Muscles.
Yeah, I agree 110%. If he had wandered off, he'd have been found. I don't feel like he ran away. I don't. I feel like if he had run away, he would have run somewhere where he was comfortable in going or somewhere where he knew someone was around, that he knew. I don't think he would have ran just to start running and go. And then again, if that was the case, then why is there no scent of him anywhere? It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. And it never will, period.
And let's talk about his mannerisms. He was very routine, and I don't mean was when he was home. I'm not saying that he's deceased. God,
Absolutely.
I hope not. He's very routine oriented. Things have to be a certain place. He eats at a certain time. He goes to bed at a certain time. I mean, he has basically his own schedule. So for him to suddenly throw caution to the wind and just take off running out of that house with no scent, no shoes, with his father said that wouldn't happen. He was big on his snacks. Then we have the pull-up situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not trying to embarrass any children out there, but sometimes kids do wet the bed, even up to 15, boys particularly. Seth said that wasn't a problem at his house, though.
Yeah, and that's interesting as well. But you also think about, this kid is barefooted supposedly, okay, which is just a nightmare 2.0 all over again. But he has, like a sensory issue or something that doesn't make sense for starters. The other part of it is if, as a mother, okay, and in Brooks, you're a mom, so and moms in this group can probably attest to this. If I'm by myself at home with my son and I hear the least little bit of a noise, you can bet your ass I'm up and at it to see what it is. Now, she comes out and then changes her story and says that she hears a thud, but she doesn't go check on him, and she uses the excuse that he's 15. I don't give a shit. Mine's 15 too. He doesn't get an ounce of privacy. I'm going to knock on his door and I'm walking through it. If he's doing something he doesn't want me to catch him, I'm sorry. That's just the way that it goes. I'm going to go check on my child, specifically some kid like Sebastian, because it's even more of a concern. So you don't hear the doors open. If we're going with the running away theory, you don't hear the door open. The dogs don't bark. You hear nothing. You hear a thud. You don't go check on him. You claim you hear him talking, blah, 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 blah. All this stuff. And then you just don't hear anything. Like, I'm on high alert all the time anyway. I sleep like I can hear a feather drop, and it's ridiculous and it drives me insane. But it's just also, I've always kind of been that way, but it's also, I feel like, part of being a mom too. Like, you just hear things. My husband can lay here and it be the house fall around him and he hears nothing, but I hear it all. And I just feel like I'd be more hyper alert to those kind of things, being alone that so often, and especially with Sebastian, the way, the way that he is. I think I would be even more sensitive to those things. And I just find it weird that that she heard nothing, if that's the case. That's why I just don't believe the theory that he wandered off. I just don't.
Well, and let's talk about the sensory issues with,
Hmm.
the feet. Okay, let's face it. This is just me. I don't think the pull-ups could be somewhat of a regression. He was wet in the bed or whatever. But with the sensory issues, how far you gonna get in the pull-ups before your ass gets chapped?
Hmm. Yep. Good point. Good point.
Not trying to be gross or humiliating, but we've changed diapers before, have we not?
Oh, yes. Many of them. Yep, you're right. Well, and then, you start talking about all the different things too that we've heard about Katie, whether or not they're true or not, it's a whole different story. But, we've heard about her drinking habits. We've heard that she was supposedly having an affair and all this different stuff. Was she even there at all? Was that the reason for the quote unquote 3-hour call to make sure that she was in the house? Like, I don't know. None of this makes sense for me. And I find that even harder to believe that if Chris is that controlling and he's that whatever, that there wasn't any kind of surveillance around their house either, because for me, a controlling person would automatically have that going on so that they can see what's going on when they're not there. There's just so much to this that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
And everything we have heard about Katie, do we even know she was truly at home, or did she go to a neighbor's house
That's what I'm wondering.
and he was out looking for her? I don't know. For all we know, the thud could have been her beanie head getting bounced off the damn headboard.
Yeah, or did she have someone in the home with her and he walked in on them? I mean, there's so many things that could have happened if that story in fact is true. But again, when you're being shady with the different things that you are releasing, or that you're saying it actually happened, you can't continue to add to the story to make the details make more sense. Like, that's what I feel like she's doing. Every time she tells her story, there's another little detail that comes out about it to try to make it even more believable. And I think it's simply because there's so many people questioning the story that was originally released. And we've seen that happen before too. There's a reason why things um, continuously build, every time that you release things. And if it's the truth, then it's just the truth every time. And it's not. That's not what we've been getting.
Like in other cases, I'm focused on one. Well, some of them it's 4, but I won't get into that. She was responsible for Sebastian. She has to know more. She doesn't know what the thud is, but she can tell you that the only exterior lighting that was on were just the little solar lights in the garden. Now, how do you know
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. How do you know that?
Those were the only lights on the outside of your home, just the little solar garden lights.
Hmm.
That's all you
And
know.
then Chris has to remind her about the 2 on the garage that they were on, and he knows they were on. Well, how do you know that, sir? You've not been home in a month.
Well, and then she corrects him to say, no, it was just the solar lights. And then
Well,
and then he nudges her, which that was a very uncomfortable interview, if you ask me.
More than a month
yeah.
later, no sign of the 15-year-old with autism.
And Michael, I want to go back in time a little bit, because you were one of the first reporters who we sent to cover this story. And you were kind of there during one of these original news briefings, and you asked a very important question of authorities about surveillance video.
This would have been day 3 or day 4 when the investigators came out and briefed us as to where we stood in the investigation. And I asked the deputy chief, you've asked for all this surveillance camera footage, all this doorbell camera footage from across Sumner County, from those specific neighborhoods where he lived. Have you seen anything? Has anybody brought you a photo, a doorbell camera image that shows you Sebastian? And he said that no, they haven't actually been able to put eyes on Sebastian since that night he went missing, which
Back up the sus bus. No way. We're not talking about Ben Hill Road. We're not talking about Manchester, New Hampshire. We're talking about 500,000 and up homes. No camera caught Sebastian.
Yeah. And how do you know about this teeny tiny flashlight that he has? A keychain flashlight is missing from his room. Like, unless that's something that he put in his pocket every single day and placed in the exact same spot every single day, which we do know people that do that, and he very well could have been that person to do it. How do you know that?
How do you know that? And who the hell? Okay. She did an inventory of his shoes, which is how she, meaning Katie Proudfoot, knows he left barefoot. So all of his sensory issues, boop, out the window. No longer does he have a problem putting his toes in the grass or walking around in a pull-up. Your child goes missing and you count their shoes? You go look for your child. Do you know how many pairs of shoes your son has?
I have an estimate maybe that I might could look at, but to know exactly how many, right off the top of my head, no. Would I know if a pair was missing? Yeah, I probably would. I mean, because realistically, my kid is pretty much a creature of habit, and he wears the same ones, for the most part. I could probably figure it out. But I can tell you something else. My kid doesn't have a sensory problem. But if he's going outside of these walls of this house by himself in the middle of the night, he ain't going without shoes. I can tell you that right now. He's not.
So
He's
she's on
not.
the phone for 3 hours. Chris Proudfoot, who is basically like a Don Wells Jr., in my opinion, he likes to get our goat. He likes to piss us off. There'd be no reason for him to bring up all the things he has brought up unless he's looking for that reaction. And here's today's lesson. If you put it out there, you're going to get a reaction.
Absolutely. Amen. That applies to everything on YouTube and the internet. Yes, ma'am.
If you put it out there, and some people are looking for a reaction,
Absolutely.
they'll
Live for
count,
it.
they'll count those views. They'll be like, "Oh, I got that." All that stuff. He is liking it.
Oh, yes.
Really stood out to me as a reporter because we know everybody nowadays has doorbell cameras. It seems like there's so many of them across the county, surveillance camera footage. And if he was to have walked away from his home, you'd think that somebody would have picked up a trace of him. And that was not the case.
It really is mystifying, and you can kind of pick up on the fact that investigators feel frustrated with the lack of leads or the lack of movement, I guess you could say, in the investigation.
Exactly. It's something I sense talking with them. They are frustrated. They've covered 2,000 square miles in just a few days since he went missing in February. They've done another search this week. They're bringing in boats. They're bringing in ATVs and search dogs. They've got boots on the ground, walking through woods, checking ponds. And they have what they say is very few clues as to what happened to Sebastian. And it's something I sensed is that they are frustrated. And it's tough for them. It's tough for the public.
And it's interesting to kind of see, they originally decided to scale back their search efforts, right? So they said, okay, we've got people on standby. We're going to respond if we get a lead. We've got boots on the ground that can go immediately, but we're scaling back the search efforts there at the scene.
Yeah.
So that kind of happened. There was a lull almost in activity. And then within, since yesterday and today, we've
seen it too many times in cases, Muscles. We go way too far back. But when I hear the words, we are not searching anymore or scaling back, as they say, and we're taking an investigative approach. Well, say no more. I know exactly what that means.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, it's so confusing. And it boggles my mind too when we were sitting here watching this one a minute ago and they were showing all the different pictures of him, the vast number of pictures of how much that, my 15-year-old changes like crazy too. And it's just, I don't understand why there's a very big difference between the pictures. And I'm just really afraid that if in fact this is Sebastian and this is the pictures that we're supposed to be looking for, I'm so afraid that the changes that he has made and the pictures that we're seeing are so vastly different that even if he's been seen or could potentially have been seen by somebody, they might not recognize him. I mean, obviously, if you see a barefoot 15-year-old walk or a barefoot teenager walking down the road, somebody would be like, excuse me, that's Sebastian, obviously. But if we're to believe mom's story, I don't know. This is,
We have another situation where it's sketchy as to what he has on.
yes.
What is the most recent photo? Hell, we have people switching the photos around.
Yes.
You don't mess with an official Amber Alert.
No. Not and put the Tennessee Department of Investigations logo all over it. No.
People just try to help. They really do, and they think they're doing a good deed. And I've been there, and you just step in it big time. I've been there.
Seen hundreds of people now back in the area around the home where he disappeared from, his family home. So it's just interesting to see, go from this lull, no new leads from what authorities are telling us to all of a sudden, this recanvassing effort that's involving hundreds of experts out there.
Right. Some new people that are out there that hopefully can shine some light on some things that they may have missed. It's important to point out that in the few days after Sebastian went missing, in those original press conferences, they said that they were working under the belief that he wandered from his home, that he walked away, and that they were out searching for him, and it was just a matter of them finding him. That was the original belief.
Yeah.
Here we are several weeks later, and I think that has changed because now the TBI and the investigators are saying everything is on the table. Every possibility is on the table. There's no evidence that points to foul play. There's no evidence that rules out foul play. So I think that has kind of changed a little bit. That belief that he just walked away from his home, sure, that's a possibility, but it may not be exactly what they believe at this time.
Right. So Holly Thompson had an exclusive interview with Sebastian's mother and stepfather, and they talked directly to that point and said, we don't even believe that he simply walked away based on his history. So take a listen to that.
He's not a runner. He's never run away before.
So why would he that night?
That's right. Why would he that night? And then where is he then? You didn't hear nothing. You heard nothing. And I've yet to see a tear fall from this woman's face. Yet.
I mean, this look on her face right now, she's the cleaner version of Candace.
Yes. Absolutely.
Now, what do you think? And every opinion here is valid, except mine sometimes. That's all right, though. I love it. About people saying that she's scared shitless of Chris.
I have so much to say about that. And the reason I do is I'm not discounting if she is afraid or if she's a victim. I'm not trying to say she is or she isn't. But what I am going to say is when you have as much time as she has to go and get help when he is not there and he is on the road, then why haven't you done it?
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for that. I don't buy the fact that she's scared of him. I just don't. I do not buy that. Based on her history and what she does, this lady is not dumb. She's very intelligent. She understands this resources that she has at her fingertips to tell someone something. This is not a situation where she cannot get away. No, that is not. You have the opportunity to get away. You had the chance to run when you could, or whatever it is. All you got to do is go to the police when he's not around, and they're going to protect you. If you don't think they are, then go somewhere else.
You work for banks, and
yeah.
And in the Navy, she wasn't exactly just tying sailors' knots. She had a very high level position.
Yes.
And there are those women that are like, beat the hell out of me all you want, cuss at me all you want. Baby's off limits. She knows there was a mattress in the garage.
That's
She
right.
knows that Chris was making fun of him. She
Yep.
knows that Chris was hitting him with the belt. You can't tell me it was one time. No way.
Well, and listen, women that are mild and meek like this, and I'm not trying to like judge anybody, but mild, meek women like this right here don't typically join any branch of the service either. Just saying. I mean, you've got some fortitude behind you to be willing to do so, and I don't care what branch of the military it is. She done so, right? So there's a lot of things out there. She is not somebody who's just going to talk like this right here and be like she's the mild, meek person. She's not. She's not
Mm-mm.
a pushover. So this makes me even more sus of her just by this alone. This is not a someone that I think is a weak person who has been controlled by somebody who's 3 hours away for a month at a time. Sorry, I don't believe that.
And I think now, I mean, he doesn't just work for St. Jude's. From my understanding is he's in the union. So they have different jobs. So this being out of town thing, if what I'm reading is correct, was not an all the time thing. It was recent. And I do believe it correlates with the CPS intervention.
I can't stand to think the thoughts that we're going to hear those words come out of their mouth again. That the CPS case is directly bleeds over into this investigation. I truly can't stand the thoughts of hearing those words again. I can't.
I have a feeling we're going to. It's all going to come out.
I don't know why. I don't know why he walked out that door.
And so just kind of to clarify and give context to that, they're basically saying that this is not something that he would do normally. He wasn't the type of child that would just leave regularly. So that's why this is confusing to them. If he did indeed walk out the door, why?
Yeah, and he could have. I mean, there's only a certain number of things that really could have happened. Either he walked away willingly and it's just a matter of people finding him. He may have walked away willingly and somebody took him. Somebody may have done something to him. I mean, there's only a certain number of theories at this point that could explain where Sebastian could have gone. I know that people with autism, kids with autism, some experts have come to us and say that is something that they do. They wander. It's a reason that they check some of those bodies of water because
She said he doesn't do it though. Who would know more than his mother? He doesn't do that. He's not an eloper. He's not a wanderer. He doesn't do that. So take that off the table. We know Katie was home or around.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
she is so on him that she monitors everything closely according to her. His cell phone, and I have zero issue with parents that do this, is talk and text only. But she hears a thud and could GAF, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and again, we don't know, I think a lot of people always carry on and say, well, we don't know that she did anything wrong or that Chris did anything wrong or, now they're lumping Seth into it too. So, and I get that, we don't know. But what we do know is she says he doesn't wander off. They don't have a scent of him. He supposedly is barefooted. So what else could have happened? So did somebody break into their home? Well, there's no signs of forced entry anywhere. Have we been told that? No. Does that mean it could have happened? Sure. But again, I go back to the security issues. Nobody was seen on. We know nothing about cameras. We know none of this. She adds in that there was a thud. Like she just paints a different story. Like what is going on? Tell the same story. The truth never changes, and you don't get the rise out of people to say that you're hiding something. If you tell the story once and the story never changes, and you don't add important details like hearing a thud, then people don't question you. But right now, what we're all looking at is they have no scent of him. There's no signs of him anywhere. Something had to have happened. Mom was home. Chris was supposedly where he was. We don't know that he was or wasn't. So there's a lot of unknowns. But if we use a little common sense and a little deductive reasoning, you get to a point where you go, they have to know something.
They have
It doesn't mean we're right or wrong,
Our friend Cece, who is a retired detective, said because there was no thud. It's extra icing on the cake. What we
Yep.
don't know is what's in the cake.
Yep. That's fact. Yeah.
She says there's no thud.
Yep.
If he was truly not wandering, he ran away. Okay. He knows his father's phone number by heart. He would have ran to a home. He would have ran to a convenience store or something and said, I need to call my dad. I got to get out of there. I just overheard Chris is coming home.
Absolutely.
I'm scared. I'm scared he's going to come home and I'm going to have hell to pay again.
Absolutely. And
Can
again,
be drawn to bodies of water. So it's
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to do that to you.
no, you're fine. And again, it is what is, again, if it's with Chris and they're so scared of Chris and Katie is in the same boat and she's afraid of Chris, she's had all the opportunity in the world to leave and go get help. And she's chose not to.
100%.
Again, that's all I can tell you.
100%. People don't vanish unless they want to, but kids, it doesn't work that way.
it's like the word you used is mystifying, and I think that's the best word that we could use.
You know, earlier this week, it seemed like a little nugget was dropped by investigators that could potentially lead us somewhere of value. And they had mentioned during a news conference the other day that a pair of glasses had been found during the search for Sebastian. They have since come out and said the glasses that we found do not belong to Sebastian. This is off the table as a piece of evidence or a clue in the case, for that matter. And we have also heard from the parents who went on national television, the stepfather and mother, and they have actually left their home because the stepfather has a job in Memphis. So they've left their home there in Sumner County to be there in Memphis for work. And there was some criticism for that decision to.
She didn't need to go with his ass to work, and he didn't need to go back to work, just like his parents didn't need to go to Alaska.
No.
That's a big old flag. Unless you're having a kidney transplant or getting ready to have your chest cut open for open heart surgery, your ass needs to be at home trying to find the child. You don't take off driving to Alaska and say, oh, I'm going to go back to work. That's some Don Wells shit right there. And I agree with Quality Wins. She said, Brooks, research noise ordinance in Tennessee, Title IX. Chris is lying about his job too. There is a noise ordinance in Memphis, and particularly at St. Jude's. Particularly there, and we can understand why. Now, when he made it clear that he was on the crane, that could have been what got him into hot water with his employer.
Yes, very true. And my question back to this piece right here that we were listening to too was the glasses. So are they saying that his glasses were, since Katie took such a grand inventory, so his glasses were gone? And we've never heard, yes, his glasses were gone. No, they weren't gone. So I'm sure that he didn't sleep in his glasses. So was his glasses gone or not? Were they found at home or not? Does he have more than one pair? Probably so. However, you know, where does that fall in? If we can identify that his shoes were home, then why can't we say, you know, we don't maybe need to be looking for glasses because they're right here. Like this is the only pair that he currently has, or whatever it may be. We've heard so many other stories. Why don't we know that about his glasses? We don't.
And no one taking a walk, wandering off, running away, whatever, is going to leave without shoes and at least their phone.
Yep.
Kind of leave while the search is happening around their house.
Yeah, they had said in that interview with Nancy Grace that it was for the stepfather's work. You know, she asked them why, and the mother had said that she wanted to be there with her husband for his work. They have since, according to investigators, cooperated fully with anything that the investigators have wanted. Anything the sheriff's office has asked of them, they said that they have done. So yes, they've received some criticism. for leaving. But as far as from what investigators have told us, they've done everything that they've been asked to do.
They also face some criticism just from people on social media saying, why did it take you so long to say something publicly? And in the exclusive interview that they did with Holly Thompson, they said, please don't judge us. You have no idea what we've been going through. And they talked a little bit about this emotional roller coaster with her that they've been on.
Are we judging or just asking questions? These are simple questions to ask if you're the one that knows and you're the one that was there.
Absolutely.
I mean, these are simple questions. And if they can't answer to social media, which they tried to get in front of that, then we know they can't answer these questions to law enforcement or Sebastian would be found.
Exactly. And people need to stop, this whole narrative of, you're accusing them by asking them these questions. No, it's just they're questions. They're legitimate questions. It's not accusations. And if they did nothing wrong, then we're definitely not accusing them. We're just trying to get to the bottom of what happened, because the stories that's been told there's holes all in it. Sorry, but there is.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a narcissistic and arrogant statement to say people don't know what you're going through. We're not saying we know what she's going through. We would just assume that her being the one at home would have more answers. Yeah. And we wouldn't be this far into the quote unquote investigation, no foul play, no evidence of foul play, no physical evidence. No physical evidence is very telling.
How are you coping?
We're on a constant roller coaster ride of helpless and hopeless and many other emotions all in one, and it's a never-ending roller coaster. It doesn't stop. It won't stop until he walks through the door.
And just a few days ago, you spoke with Sebastian's biological father. So we just heard from his stepdad and his mother, but you actually did an interview with his
Seth Rogers
dad. Yeah, and it was such a profound interview and so gut-wrenching. Walk us through how that interview came to be, and then we'll play a little bit of it.
This actually came out, this was last Monday, and the United Cajun Navy had come in. They'd been searching for Riley Strain in downtown Nashville, and were here. And so after the resolution to Riley's case, they moved over to Sumner County and said, well, we'll help search for Sebastian. And we had arranged an interview at the place that they were sort of meeting in their command center. And they had asked Seth Rogers to join, and he came and was more than willing to talk to us for the first time. Was the first time I had a chance to talk to him. He's been out searching himself, and was very moved by the attention this case has gotten, and you felt for him, and I know we have a piece of that interview.
Yeah, and what I appreciated about it was, the love with which he described his child. So take a listen.
Every day, I have to stop looking is to give up hope, and I'm just not into that. He is my heart. If you get to know him, you'll smile all the time. When you see him coming, you'll smile. When you hear his laughter, it's the sun coming through the clouds.
I mean, just to hear him describe his son like that, goodness. Yeah. It's just kind of gets your heart immediately. What is one thing that really stuck out with you? Because you've kind of been in the thick of it, Michael, boots on the ground reporter. You've been there among the search crews using all types of tools to try to find him. What's a moment or an exchange or something someone said that is really going to stick with you?
The attention that this case has gotten from the people who live in that area, who truly went out and were walking along rivers and in woods and checking their sheds as they were asked to do. We even got a chance to speak to some people who have autism or have children who have autism. And if you want to talk about people who have their eyes on this case, it's those folks who know what it's like to raise a child with autism, who know what it's like to have autism. And this case is one that they are thinking about all day, multiple times a day. And for them to get a resolution to this case would mean the world.
And I think it's something that just resonates with all parents, right? Like this is every parent's worst nightmare, and to see this unfolding is just so troublesome.
And it goes without saying, Seth is broken. He doesn't know if he's coming or going. And it was really hard not to really tear up when he talked about Sebastian's smile, because he smiles with his whole face. He's just too cute.
He definitely does. You can't look at him and not, when he in those pictures he's smiling like that. You can't look at him and not smile. That's truth. He's definitely got a contagious smile, that's for sure.
All right, now they took her work van, and I don't understand what the big secrecy with the work van is. When they spoke with Nancy Grace, they said, well, they need permission from the employer to talk about the work van. Now they have parked it in front of the RV. I don't know if they're afraid that someone's going to tow the RV, the FBI is going to show up and get it or what. But if I was the neighbors, I'd be laughing my ass off. That is a really nice fifth wheel. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Super nice.
Mm-hmm.
But that van's not going to pull it.
No, definitely not.
So
Definitely not.
what do you think all the weird statements about the work van, where the hell did those come from?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. So, they were apprehensive to, I thought it was funny when Nancy Grace did say, well, I mean, it's sitting out in the driveway and people can get the tag and all this stuff. It was very weird, how they did not want to talk about it at all, that they hadn't had permission and all this stuff. That I don't buy that. There's something very strange about that. And I would love to know if that van had moved at all after midnight.
That's what I
Would
want to
love
know.
to know.
That's what I want to know too.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't tell me with what she did in the Navy, she doesn't know how to turn off location services, notifications, and all that stuff.
Oh, please. Yeah. Yeah. And that's I always wonder about the whole, 3-hour phone call deal. Well, I would love to see that digital footprint, because I would love to see if Chris's phone stayed in Memphis or if Chris's phone made it home with him. Was it a stage thing where it was left in the RV where it made it appear that his phone was there the entire time that night? I don't know. There's a lot of weirdness and then obviously you would need his truck data and those kind of things. Like all of that stuff I would love to have my hands on, because it would explain a lot.
It would explain a lot. And not to cause any confusion, sorry, I should have said something before I put this picture up. I was mainly just talking about the work van and why it was such a big deal. This picture is weeks old. My understanding is they're still at the RV park in Mississippi. Well, I'm going to put the link up to see if anybody wants to come up and chat with us, Muscles. I know you have a lot of stuff to do today. But hell, we can get lost in these cases and talk for hours and hours and hours.
Definitely.
Amongst other things. But I do want to go through part of what Peter Hyatt is saying. He has a really very, very actually interesting theory on this case. Seems to me he's leaning towards extreme punishment that went way too far.
At times it's difficult to give an explanation just through social media, and a little bit easier if I do it live. And I know people get annoyed that they're not scheduled far in advance, but there is some madness somewhere within my methods. But it does work for me, and these can always be seen later if it's any interest to you. I'd like to talk about the $1 million question and give some explanation regarding that. So let me see if I can put the screen up for you. Some of my notes there. Make it larger. There's the $1 million question.
Okay, before we get to his $1 million question, what is the one question, you can only pick one, that you want answered?
The $1 million question I want answered is, oh gosh, I have to narrow it to one.
I mean,
It's tough.
besides where is Sebastian?
Sure, the
What
obvious, yeah.
is the $1 million question? And that one is really hard for me to pin down.
Yeah, that one is tough but I think if I had to say one, it would be what does the digital footprint look like? And that includes vehicles and phones.
There you go.
In the case of the missing teen. And so recap, not only is time elapsing, which is eroding any hope, unless there's some form of a kidnapping where he still may be alive. The mother was the only one home, and this is alleged, and I trust that the police know these things. That's why I'm going on the assumptions. I know many differ, and that's fine. But I'm going to go on the assumptions of some of the basics. Mother was the only one home, and she said that she got up at 6 a.m. to wake him for school, which I'll talk about that. And he wasn't there. And she didn't give an interview. She didn't give out the information of what he looked like, his particular needs. As those of you who are familiar with the case, he has autism and he has some specific challenges, behavioral.
Kristen's back 2 days in a row. How you doing, girlfriend?
I am doing so good. Feeling a little bit better from the flu.
Thank goodness. So many people are getting that springtime flu. Muscles sounds a little nasally. I was going to ask her if she's feeling okay.
Oh yeah, just that Northeast Tennessee time. That's all.
Have you been mowing the grass, Muscles?
I've been digging in the bushes, Brooks. You know how that goes, digging some weeds.
I know. I'm going to milk that for a long time.
Challenges that are difficult all around. Likely, there may be some sensory issues, which many parents of autistic children report. And I'll touch upon that. So the media didn't give a lot of coverage to this initially.
No, they really didn't. I didn't know anything about it until I saw it on, like I said, Trev's Facebook page. By the way, QDV, you keep popping in backstage. Would love to have you, but it keeps showing your devices aren't connected. Why do you think it took so long for the media to pick up on this? Were they just waiting for it to get juicier, or they just wanted to kind of sit back and see if he was found, or what?
Yeah, but I would think after day 20, it would have already been everywhere. I mean, that's even a long time too. You know, like that kid, for an example, that just came up missing. Like I'm new kind of in the crime world. Like I've always watched it, but now I'm like really into it. And with the kid that just came up missing in North Carolina, I mean, he was found in less than 24 hours because he was still in the neighborhood, and they knew what he had on, and they had video camera. You know.
Well, part of it could have been the Riley Strain story in that area. The mainstream media doesn't really cover true crime like they used to. I mean, it used to be, top story every night. Well, we know it's not anymore. Sad, but that's the truth. That's the only thing I can make out of it.
I would have to say I don't watch enough regular TV to say I know much about it. I'm definitely a YouTube channeler all day long. So,
and that's really where social media comes in, where they can see all the, what they say, clicks and views, all the clicks and views, and they see what's really getting people's attention and what they really want information on.
Well, I really want information on Sebastian. And so if I have to start my own darn channel and start going out there with my local Flint people and being like, so, hey, how you guys doing? So where's Sebastian? Hey, how you doing? Where's Sebastian? Do you guys wonder where Sebastian's at? We do. Hi, how you doing? Well, oh, okay.
There you go.
But social media did. People were upset. And a 15-year-old missing, a 15-year-old with special needs, is very upsetting. Particularly upset are a lot of the parents that have autistic children or have raised autistic children. And so what it became was a divergence of views where people are speaking out. And some people were literally on social media saying, where is he? And the mother who was home with them and the stepfather who gave that initial interview didn't. There was silence there. And people were upset. And eventually they responded to give an interview. Now, in that initial interview, there were some things that were said there that were very alarming. The first two things that are the most important to my perspective is that they did not show guilty knowledge of killing him. And it's something that would be very difficult to conceal. It's just so powerful, and I'll show you why that is. The second thing is they didn't show guilty knowledge of knowing where he was 1 week later. I'm not a fan of the expression where he's at, but some regionalism may play in there. But they didn't show guilty knowledge of those things. So very major points. And so initially you're looking at, you're saying, okay, these are innocent parents. We don't wish to falsely accuse anyone, although it's not legally binding. It's just opinions people have. And then there was deception. But two major factors that I know.
Okay, let's talk about that. And I'm not taking anything away from Mr. Hyatt's expertise. He's talking about they don't have guilty knowledge of a possible murder or where he's at, but there's deception. Now, my uneducated, untrained brain thinks they're one and the same. Deception is covering for guilty knowledge. Am I way off base there?
No, not in my opinion. Deception doesn't necessarily have to be the one that's done the crime or the one that done anything. It's like you said, guilty knowledge. That's the way I take it too.
What do you think, Kristen? I think we lost Kristen. Why be deceptive about anything if you're innocent? If you have nothing to do with his disappearance, you have no knowledge or anything.
Notice in the interview,
I apologize,
was that it was very controlled information. There, you have one parent that was home, one parent, step-parent, that was not home, yet they were in sync with one another very closely. It shows a very strong bond, actually, in the context of the 15-year-old is missing. And as many have already observed, and then it became even more so in subsequent interviews, we saw the stepfather controlling things, answering questions for them. And then we learned that 911 was not dialed, but the sheriff's department was dialed, and law enforcement regarding a missing child.
Calling the sheriff's office as opposed to 911, which is a true emergency. You don't have eyes on your child. I don't mean someone that didn't come in the house on time for dinner. Your child who is not in bed when it's time to go to school, and you do a 3-way call to the sheriff's office. What the F is up with that, Muscles?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I will never understand that whatsoever, other than trying to be deceptive and throw people off. That's the only thing I can come up with. I mean, what else is there? And it just makes no sense to me whatsoever. And I know that they say that, well, she was hysterical and all that. I get it. You should be hysterical, but you can't tell me she's hysterical because I've yet to see her be hysterical. I'm sorry. I've just not seen that in her yet. So, um, whether or not you can actually talk through everything that's going on or whatever. I mean, if anybody's ever listened to 911 calls, Lord knows I've done that before too. I'm always suggest doing that, but nonetheless, um, you know, they're able to at least ping your home. Even if you call 911 and you hang up, they can ping where you are and get an approximate, pretty close location from where you are, because that could happen, right? Somebody can be in your house and you can't talk, or somebody snatches a phone from you or whatever, and you call and you hang up or whatever it is. They can get people to you. So why would you not want to call 911 and talk to that specific person, as opposed to calling a non-emergency? I'm sorry, but a missing child being a non-emergency is an oxymoron.
And that's going to come back to haunt them if it hasn't already. We have Christina backstage. Welcome to the channel, Christina. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. What are you thinking, hun?
So just to piggyback off of Peter's.
Oh, this is Laska? I didn't see a picture. I thought it was a different Christina, and I recognized your voice. Well, hell, you've been here for ages.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
You want to get rid of me?
No, never.
Anyway,
you've got a birthday coming up, by the way.
It is next week. In her very first interview, she says that Chris was not in the home that weekend. In the home. But was he in the garage? Was he at his parents' house? Was he in town? Was he around? She very specifically says he was not in the house. And something that, from a psychology standpoint, that I've caught in all of their interviews, they are very, very, very particular about the wording that they use. So Nancy Grace asked if they had a Ring camera. And they said, no, we don't have a Ring camera. Well, they don't have a Ring camera. They have a Brinks whatever camera. It's not a Ring brand. So did they lie? No, they don't have a Ring camera. They have a door camera. They have a security camera, but it's not a Ring camera. And I have a feeling that in a lot of these interviews they've done, it's been a lot of fancy talking rather than and getting around what the questions truly are asking.
So you're saying they're being too literal in order to deceive?
Sure.
Okay. So kind of like omissive lies.
Yes.
How do we know Pudgy Ass wasn't sleeping in the work van? There was a mattress in there reportedly.
Right. Or the garage. The garage is not the house.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Now, you are I'm going to go ahead and say, a child expert. You have more degrees than a thermometer in these things. If he has never wandered off or ran off before, what would the odds be of him doing it that night and throw all his sensory issues out through the wind?
Okay, I just want to talk a little bit about autism. And I know a lot of, a lot of parents in our chats have children with autism. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. You can either disagree with me, back me up, whatever. But it's odd to me that he was not diagnosed until he was 14 years old with autism.
Uh-huh.
Because typically autistic traits appear somewhere around 3 to 5 is where we start seeing like the big ones. And then, as they go through school, we pick up on other ones that aren't so obvious. Additionally, okay, so I think they were in a crisis mode with him, and here's why. So he has this new autism diagnosis, and that's in addition to what I believe they said ADD. I don't know if he had or ADHD. So he got that new diagnosis. One of the first things I heard was that he had just gone to a new school and they had put him on some really, really tough new meds. That Risperdal is not to be played with. So I have a strong feeling that they were in kind of a crisis mode at this point with the child. They've added all these new things into the mix, and he was perhaps not adjusting well, or perhaps the parents weren't adjusting well to it. And honestly, he has, Sebastian has what I would call an ADD body, ADHD body, because kids on Adderall or Ritalin, Vyvanse, it tends to take away their appetite and they just don't want to eat. So I would say most of the kids that I worked with that were on those medications were kind of string beans, tall, thin, just like Sebastian. So, yeah.
Okay, very interesting. So you're saying that these medications, you're like, they're not to be played with.
No.
Of course, we're not suggesting that they are playing with them. It is just one more, layer of, the cake. So it basically is it suppresses an appetite. So what, just your opinion only, because you haven't interviewed them.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think was going on with the hoarding food from him, keeping him food?
Oh, I can tell you that's an OCD behavior. So what happens is if kids aren't, so in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, obviously, but that house was chaos. Mm-hmm. He never knew 1 minute to the next what was going to happen with Chris and Katie. I don't think they had a set routine, a set schedule. Just, again, this is just my opinion, but it sounds like chaos to me. And a child like Sebastian would not thrive in that environment. So he's hoarding food because he's not sure when he's going to get something to eat. And although he's on that medication, he still gets hungry. I mean, he's not going to sit down to a 7-course meal, but it's not unusual for a kid that has OCD, which is it goes to all phases of life, which is why he would have worn shoes. But they hoard food because they just don't know when they're going to get it again.
Now, Katie, I agree with Lip Lock No More. She left some, what I would consider very important things out of the timeline. For one, we know that he was, I'm going to say, forced to wear pull-ups. So there's no simple things that we do throughout the day. One is eat, hydrate ourselves, and we use the bathroom. She doesn't mention, with all this running around, how are we changing the pull-ups? She doesn't mention giving him his medication. Do you find that odd or just a slip of memory?
I think that's just a slip of memory. But, okay, so here we go back. As soon as I heard he was wearing pull-ups at one place and not the other, I mean, that's a huge, huge red flag. Mm-hmm. And any child that age who I had heard to that point was highly intelligent and probably more Asperger's, which is the higher level of autism. They don't diagnose it as Asperger's anymore, but highly effective people with autism. That was a huge red flag. So it's telling me that there's chaos in that house. He had no control over anything in that house except his own bodily functions. And even then, he was so scared. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, but this is what I've seen in other kids. And if he had just gone to a new school, that would make sense. He was adjusting to the new school. Teachers would be ready for that. But it also happens a lot, and I hate to say it, but children that do have abuse of a sexual nature, early on do tend to wet the beds and do tend to have trouble potty training and boys and girls, but mostly boys. And Bama girl, I did see your comment. Girls tend to be diagnosed with autism later because their signs are a little different than the boys and they tend to be less hyperactive. So that's why, in my experience, girls with autism tend to be overlooked. So I'm saying if Sebastian had a routine from every single day, same people in his life, the same schedule, and warning that the schedule was going to change maybe on Saturday when they went and did all those crazy things, and Sunday when he would be in a much better place in that house.
And if he didn't change the pull-ups, who did it for him? And how is he doing, what he was accused of, exposing himself at school or in the bathroom? I mean, not out in the middle of the hallway if he's got pull-ups on. He
Right.
obviously knows that wearing a pull-up at 15 isn't what other kids are wearing. Why would he even let that out there?
Right. Because he's not a dumb kid. But as a teacher, I would not be changing the pull-ups of a 15-year-old that was highly functioning as this child is, as this young adult is. So, we would send him in the bathroom with a pull-up and, we would have had a male teach him how to do that because of privacy and just,
and it's more appropriate.
Yes. Yes.
What is your opinion of, because the essay happened at age 8.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is the pull-up situation has been in the last few months.
So again, I go back to that crisis situation that I think he was in because he had the new meds, he had the new autism diagnosis, and they had put him in a new school. And I don't know the behavior of the parents at that time, but just any one of those things could have caused a regression. But that's a big regression, Brooks. I'm not going to lie. Usually if a kid is potty trained, they could regress, but that's a pretty big regression for a kid that age.
Huge. And as a teenager, like you said, for him not to have control of his bodily functions and that's taken away from him, my opinion only, it almost seems like it was a humiliation tactic. That seems to be this taunting, picking on him seems to be a something that Chris Proudfoot seemed to have gotten a little bit of an enjoyment out of. Just my opinion.
I'm going to say that when he was talking about his disciplinary methods, I almost got the impression that he was bragging about how strict he was with Sebastian.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that made me sick. That's not how you treat children. That's not how you teach children how to behave. And again, Sebastian, they said he'd be good for a while and then he'd screw up. Well, how do you screw up so much that you need a belt? He's 15. What is he going to screw up? So much so that you would need a physical punishment. I don't know. But I will say that I'm sure the school was not belittling him for his disabilities.
No, I don't think that at all. And I looked more at what Chris Proudfoot was doing, and she allowed.
Yes.
Because these are their statements, not mine.
Well, again, back to the crisis and chaos in the house, I think Katie was overwhelmed. And yeah, he's a teenager, so now he's got the hormones. Now he wants to shave. Now, whatever. But he's not going to leave the house without shoes and a coat on. He's not mentally incapable of knowing that it's 27 degrees out. We just got home. I was cold. I had a jacket on. I need to put shoes on if I'm going to leave. And even if Katie would have said, oh, we just have to run a quick errand, Sebastian, he still would have put shoes on.
Well, and he would at least dress for the elements or come back in and get himself dressed if he truly just wanted to take a walk, cool off, or run away. 26 degrees below freezing, and we're supposed to believe he took out like that in a pull-up and no warm clothes and barefoot? I'm not buying that one. Sorry.
Right.
And
then
special needs
say quick,
is now hearing the information from someone who was.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Secretary. Go ahead.
I just, before I forget, because, you know, there's a lot on my mind, but autism often takes a long time to diagnose because not only do you have to give the child an IQ test, you have to give them a behavior analysis, you have to do observations. And honestly, some of the medications that I understand Sebastian was on, only a psychiatrist can prescribe. So like the Vyvanse is a controlled substance, so only a psychiatrist can, a medical psychologist, so that's a psychiatrist, could prescribe. Also, the Risperdal would only be able to be prescribed by a psychiatrist. So he would have, so he couldn't go to just like a general doctor and be diagnosed with autism. It would have been a big step. I mean, that would have been a several phase step, if that makes sense.
Perfect sense.
Okay.
Now, the way they say he remembers numbers, because like he knew Seth's phone number off the top of his head and other numbers, but he doesn't know the garage code.
Oh, that's
that makes sense.
Baloney, baloney, baloney. And even if she hadn't given him the number, he would have looked over her shoulder. Come on, he's 15.
Mm-hmm.
And don't tell me he didn't have access to internet. Do not tell me that. Because in a neighborhood, there's got to be at least one router that doesn't have some sort of like protection so that people can use it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or a code or a login or something. One of his neighbors probably had an open internet, and that switch can get online. His phone can get online, whatever.
He plays Minecraft all the time.
Absolutely.
You know, before I started really looking at the oddities that are the proud feets, I almost wondered if it wasn't a Minecraft thing. We have seen many cases where kids have gotten out of the house by someone that they have met through these gaming sites.
Okay, but Brooks,
been too long. It's been too long. There's no digital trace.
He'd wear shoes. If he left the house to meet somebody, he'd still put his shoes and a jacket on. He'd check to make sure his mom was asleep, passed out on the couch or wherever she was.
Mm-hmm.
Put his shoes on and put his jacket on and go outside. And no, the dogs might not bark because it's Sebastian. They know Sebastian. I can walk around the house. My dog's not going to bark.
Right.
Anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
No, you're 100% right. So glad you came up.
Hours away, who wasn't there. And I don't know if calling directly to the local sheriff's department is something that would then avoid a recording, but I'm certainly suspicious of that. So you didn't kill him, and you don't know where he is, and these two things I believe. Why are you doing this? Why are you being deceptive? Why? And then the subsequent interviews, why do you have a need to lie? Why did you lead people to believe this or believe people that? And then we listened more, and what we were given was a polishing of an image. When? While a child is missing. And she asked, well, who would care about that? Who would care about polishing an image when all you care about is getting your child back? So I'm going to cover that, in which I covered in social media, but I think explanation is probably better. So I am accused of an armed robbery at a local store, local stop and rob, and they said that I went there and pulled a gun and committed a robbery. So that's the accusation. What does innocent sound like? And what does concealing information sound like? And they sound like two very different things. So as an innocent, and I don't mean that judicially, but a de facto innocence where I didn't do it. I didn't rob the store. Well, we have you on security tape pulling a gun on them. No, you don't. I didn't rob a store. I didn't rob that store. I didn't rob any store. Go review your tape again. Well, why should we believe you? I don't really care if you do. I'm telling the truth. So what I've done is I've made a reliable denial. I didn't rob the store. My pronoun, my past tense, no equivocation. That's very strong. And if someone can lie like that, you know, we've got some big issues. Always, when you meet a fabricator of reality, and this is very different than you robbed the store. Did you rob the store? No, with a panic no. Or did you do this? Did you do that? A panic no. And then later on, someone says, I'm sorry, I lied, and yeah, I did do such and such, or I did spend this money or went to this location, or whatever it may be. It's very different. So if someone can actually fabricate reality, it's very concerning. However, when they're asked, why should you be believed? If I can look at my words, I did not rob the store, and then use the pronoun I and communication language.
This goes back to what you were saying, Christina. When they speak in such literal terms, no, I don't have a ring cam. There's no correction. There's no, I don't have a ring cam. Instead, I have this. And I think that's what he's trying to say, but obviously a lot more eloquently than me. Let's see who we have backstage. Hang on one second. Cutie V has never been up before, so I'm going to bring Cutie up first. Let's all say hi to Cutie. Hello. Welcome, Cutie. Glad you got connected. What's the no? What you got?
Well, I think that Katie had something to do with the disappearance of Sebastian.
Okay.
And forgive me if it's echoey. I'm at a public center at the moment.
Oh, okay. Where are you at?
It's a peer support center.
Oh, okay. Sounds like the post office. It always echoes in there. Okay, so what leads you to believe that Katie knows more, or whatever your suspicion is?
Well, given that her military background, I think she had something to do with Sebastian being missing and such. And I think Chris was involved in it. It's just an opinion of mine.
Yeah, you're allowed to have an opinion. So is it the changing stories, the way they acted on the interviews, or what is it? What really got your red flag pulled?
It's just that the way they were acting on the interview with Nancy Grace, I don't buy their story with him just wandering off. I don't buy it one bit.
Well, and the thing is, they're saying he would never wander off. We've heard that before in other cases. They're saying he would never wander off. Have we not heard that before, Muscles? No, Muscles is muted.
We sure have heard that more than once.
It's just ridiculous.
Okay, well, Muscles has to jump down because she's got a meeting in a few minutes, but let's have a big round of applause for our friend Muscles and Mascara, and also to our friend Christina, who's a birthday girl next week. I agree with Reality Wins. All of their interviews are odd. So they just catch you as odd, right, Cutie?
Yes. Yes, I do. I agree.
Well, I appreciate you coming up, hon, and we're going to keep following this case. Are you going to come back and see us? We're live every morning.
Oh, you bet. You bet I'm going to be coming back. I am subscribed to your channel. I'm always keeping tabs on it.
All right, girlfriend. We will see you on the next one. Thanks for coming up.
Oh, of course. See you on the next one.
All right. Bye-bye, hun. So she thinks it's really odd, too. All right. Little Bit's back. Good morning, my fellow Okie.
Good morning.
So I'm sure you had a lot of time to marinate and process what's been going on. What do you think?
Girl, that's all I've been doing is obsessing about this stuff. Last night I was rewatching some of those videos, or not videos, interviews.
Yeah.
And there was one that really bothered me on, and I know on a facial expression that Chris made, but it was specifically with one word that he said. Do you remember when they were in the camper and they were doing an interview? And he was asked about the belt and, why, he spanked him with the belt. And then once I guess it was over a lie, is what he was saying at that point. Not because he didn't wear a belt. That was another one, I guess. But he said, Sebastian said this or whatever. And to me, that was kind of like mocking him. But after that, he went to go say, okay, you know what we have to do now. But it was right at the time he said, okay, he had this look on his face, Brooke, that was like so chilling that if you just like, and I didn't notice that look before. And I just kept playing it over and over and over. And to me, that speaks volumes. And then is the doctor still on?
Nope, she's in chat. Do you have a question for Christina?
Well, I was just going to say, my youngest son was on risperidone, slash Risperdal is the brand name. And that made him more like, it was more like a sedative, I guess, for him. And he started that at the age of 6.
Okay.
And a psychiatrist put him on it. They said at the time, kids get misdiagnosed. They said at the time he was bipolar with schizophrenic tendencies. And that medicine made him so sleepy. Like the teachers were saying, he's not being able to stay awake, during class time. So we started switching it up. And
I just put her comment up. She said it's a zombie drug, really.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And I my husband and I at that time were going through a temporary separation. And I think what it was is that to him was devastating. It may not have been to one of my other kids, but for this child, it was extremely devastating. And he started acting out. And when it was my husband's weekend, he actually took him to the emergency room. They evaluated him for hours, like in another room. I went up there. I had sole custody at that point in time. And I said, look, because they said, we want to admit him and evaluate him for some time. And I didn't feel like that was appropriate for his age. I felt like it was situational. And so I took him home. But after some time, it did seem like maybe he did need to be, diagnosed of something. So I did take him to a psychiatrist at St. Anthony's, I believe it was, yeah. And he did say, like I said, the diagnosis, we put him on the medication. And if I know that when he would sleep so sound that, he would start doing, occasional bedwetting. I'm gonna make all my kids sound weird, but then I have an older one. He did not have ADHD. He had impulse control disorder, is what I was told. When he was 13, he got diagnosed with that. So what they did is they put him on Adderall. Now, he's 34 now. So at 13, they put him on that. And he was already pretty much almost full grown, and he is 6'5". So you're talking about that body shape of, really long and skinny. That's just that age anyways. They're trying to grow into their feet because, their feet take off and they're clumsy, and they're just, their body's trying to catch up with everything. And I tell you what, that kid lost so much weight in such a short period of time that it freaked me out. I called the doctor. They changed it to a time release versus a non-time release. But he would not be hungry at the normal dinner time, but he would be hungry at midnight or 1. So that got me thinking when they were talking about locking up the food and, this and that. Well, yeah, he may not be hungry at 5, 6, 7 when you normally eat, but at midnight or 1, when it wears off, then he became hungry. Well, at that point in time, whatever we had, we just made sure, that we had, already plates made for him, because I didn't care what time he ate, just as long as he ate. And then in between, give him those protein shakes or whatever. But I think going back to the whole locking up the food, I don't think she wanted to get up and feed him, because there's some extra care there. You have to kind of, in some people's eyes, go out of your way. We did take him off that medication eventually. He does, as an adult now, agree he probably needs to be on it for impulse control. But that will be, his decision on that part. But okay. And then my middle child, once my third child was born, and they're 4.5 years apart, he was already well potty trained. But once my third child came, he actually reverted. And he's the one I was talking about being in pull-ups. And, later on, because he would be outside playing, and then all of a sudden, he comes in and he's got that ring around him. And we were like, look, usually this is only at nighttime, but, it seems like it's kind of during the day too. So I don't, and he was not on any medication. So I don't know what was making him not stop to play and to come in and potty. But for us, we did that so the neighborhood kids wouldn't make fun of him. So I think anything can make a child revert. I don't think it necessarily has to be a bad change. I just think any change, but maybe that was like a bad change for him because he felt like maybe attention was being taken away. But that was how he showed it, was he reverted, at 4.5. He'd been potty trained since he was 2.
Well, and I think about what Christina was saying when she was on panel. She said that's a huge reversion at 15. She keeps talking about the chaos in the home, and that could be why he was so adamant about his food and wants his food, and that makes a world of sense to me.
And then, like she was saying, that's a sedative. Well, so that relaxes things too. So could there not be some chemical response to relaxing the bladder, to where maybe that, the wetting, started increasing more because he was a little bit more relaxed? Because I feel like I don't feel like Chris went straight into one day, hey, let's just start putting pull-ups on him. I think maybe there was an accident, and then that gave Chris the idea of, hey, let's just do it nonstop, and then it turned into whatever. But it could, like we were talking about, it could be the medicine also that
Christina
started.
said it's very possible. I mean, I'm not going to get past the whole 26 degrees, barefoot, and sensory issues. This makes no sense. Let's bring up Kristen. She was up earlier today. She lost connection. See what she thinks about this. Kristen, what did you think about what we saw of Peter Hyatt's interview and when he's talking about deception? I've got an echo. What's going on? Do I have?
Is that me?
No, I think I've got. Do you have your YouTube open a little bit?
I don't think so. Do you want me to put? I'll turn my mic off and see if that helps.
I think it was me.
No, it's okay. All right, so go ahead, Kristen. What do you think?
I was actually doing something else, and so now I gotta remember what I was doing. I apologize. So with the whole, I'm into that Katie and Chris Brownfoot are definitely guilty. I think the story that Katie gave us is not the true story. I believe it's some of it. I believe like BJ's is true. I believe, I think it was the bowling alley. Some of the stuff that you guys bring up, it's new stuff that I'm learning. So I'm like, oh, that's a good point. That makes them even more guiltier. So, I'm totally, against the Proudfoots. And I promise if they didn't do it, I will write them a letter and be like, I was so gung-ho. But right now, the interviews don't necessarily get me as much. It's just on how they're acting. I mean, I'm a mother of an autistic child, and now he's wearing diapers, I would have been like, oh my gosh, what happened to you? What traumatic, just things like that. Like, she didn't seem like she cared, like, ever.
Like she didn't have like a nurturing side to her.
Correct.
See, and the nurturing side for me, and again, we're just having a convo up here. I got to mute Kristen when I talk because there's an echo. I don't want to blast you guys' ears out. Nothing personal. The nurturing side to me wasn't really my trigger, my red flag. It's rinse, repeat. We once again have a case with a missing child, and we have the hands-on parent, custodial parent, that can't keep a damn story straight. On what planet does that make sense? And a lot
you can't keep the story straight because it's lies.
Yeah, you can keep the truth straight. And it's the turmoil that he's been through in his short years. Multiple moves, which happens, their military family. The divorce of Seth and Katie. Divorce happens. Autism, the SA. Now we're in pull-ups. We have a new school. We have a new home. I don't think that the Bowersox family treated him as if he was one of theirs. That is just my opinion. That is my feeling. They were almost talking about him as if they were waiting on their Instacart order.
Right.
Still waiting on Sebastian to get back, and we're going to Alaska. I'll send you a postcard.
Yeah. Sorry, that was funny. I don't know if I put this in chat or not, but do you think that there could have been a possibility, with Chris supposedly not supposed to be back in the home, that maybe, and maybe Katie was kind of counting on that. Maybe she was doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing, and Chris kind of snuck up, on them, but not like, because he knew she was doing something. Like maybe he suspected and kind of snuck up and caught Katie doing something, on the phone with somebody talking, or, maybe somebody was over or whatever, and things, got crazy, went awry, and Sebastian happened to be a witness. And maybe he, that could also be an option, because he would have had to snuck, because he's not supposed to, from my understanding, not supposed to be there.
Well, I'm thinking about the comment that we had earlier, and forgive me, I can't remember who said it, but it made so much sense. Actually, it was from you. Dumb me. Because we've heard it in other cases when there is an issue with CPS and this is the person who is the alleged abuser. Remember, everything on here is opinion and alleged. We don't know who's guilty, who's innocent. We have no idea. We're asking the same questions that law enforcement's asking.
Right.
I just lost my train of thought. Oh, but no, it makes perfect sense to me that even though he's just 3 hours away, and again, he's the foreman. He's not some grunt on the job. Hell, he can knock off early on Friday, get home to his own home, and be like, I'll see you guys around noon on Monday. I'm the foreman. And I'm looking at what Slim Shady said. She said the Bowersox, they went to Disney with all their grandchildren, but no Sebastian.
Yep.
Why would you not teach Sebastian?
Well, and piggybacking off of what you just said too about, oh my God, I lost my train of thought. It must be contagious.
It's contagious. It's coming from me. It's a Friday.
How, him being the foreman. Well, in the very, very beginning, one of those interviews, he said his job told him not to come back until all this is resolved. Now that's wording is a lot. And not, hey, is there anything we can do to help find your son? And you take as much time off as what you need, and we'll just take it, day by day. But if it was said until this is resolved, then maybe they couldn't verify 100%, that he was there that whole time. And they did not want to get brought into it. So they were just like, look, until all this is resolved, you stay over there. You just go handle your business. And so maybe he did sneak back in.
Until
at that point, he wouldn't have had to sneak back in. Yeah,
until we get to the end of this investigation. And I think that's why a lot of the very unfounded accusations against Sebastian were made, because Chris Proudfoot strikes me as the type of person that you're not going to tell him what to do. He's almost obstinate. He's almost oppositional defiant, even though he's been in the military.
Yes.
He is quite the narcissist. He really is. And I hate throwing that word around. I think it's way watered down and it's used way too much. But to say you can't be around him, and he lives here, dude. So
right.
Take
and
it.
Katie could have had some resentment too, because now my husband can't come around, because of what happened with, maybe CPS with Sebastian. So there may have been some extra animosity there too with Katie. So maybe she just didn't have even less, maybe she had less patience with him because, that's really interfering. And, a fight maybe broke out. And that, I know I wrote that down, thinking about maybe she was extra upset because she couldn't see her husband anymore. And if she wanted to get out of that situation, honestly, that would have been the perfect time. Because if he did come back, and she didn't want, she could have made an anonymous call and saying, hey, look, he is here. And nobody would have known it came from her. And they could have played it off and just coming by to do a random checkup and catch him there. So there was ways that she could have gotten him back out of the house, especially if he wasn't supposed to be there. So I don't, I still kind of feel like she was
100%. I smell what you're stepping in. Sebastian's father, Seth, is in chat right now. He's 100% right. He said Sebastian is the innocent one. He would have more detail if he can share it on this. Seth, we would love to have you come on panel. Would love to hear from you. You have a lot of support here on this channel. And there is the link, Seth. So you are more than welcome to come up. I know you have a lot going on. You're searching, a lot going on. You're getting some internet heat. I wish I could explain it, my friend, but that's what happens on the internet. That is what happens.
And I don't think he's getting as much support. That I don't think he has the support that he needs either. Seth. I think he could,
Well, he's
use
got it
more
here. I
support.
can't speak for other channels or other groups or anything, but he's got it here. So I hope he knows this is a safe place for him and Seth can come on. Not going to ask him any pressing questions because he's currently driving right now. Check your Facebook messages, Seth. I just sent you my phone number. And I'm not going to record you or anything, just when, you aren't so tied up. Whenever you want, you are more than welcome to come up. Okay, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry a little bit.
No, you're fine. And it's when he's at home at night, and yeah, it's great that he's got, good platforms that he can go on and talk to. But, those nights, when things are settling down and, those thoughts just race through your head, just on a normal day. You think about you think about your day before you're falling asleep and stuff. So maybe at that point, that support system, physically having somebody else there and just kind of helping him through those moments, I think would really benefit him. And I don't know, he may have somebody there. I don't know, but
well, and the thing is, when we're going through a lot of things, we need somebody to vent to, somebody to unload on. We have Homestead backstage. Welcome to the channel, Homestead. This is your first time on panel. Say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. You talk fast. I'm sorry. Anxiety.
Hang on. You sound like a robot. You're going to have to get out and reconnect. Okay, hun? I don't know what happens with that.
I don't know.
And poor Kristen can't get connected. It just keeps saying device is not connected. Well, I'll just take this out on my husband later. Go ahead a little bit.
And on Katie, she knew a lot about, in her profession on how to, she dealt with, cellular stuff and Wi-Fi stuff. And then in more extreme, you can't tell me that woman did not know how to manipulate Wi-Fi, anything that's connected to a Wi-Fi. Because I'll tell you what, I got kids that can manipulate a Ring camera 3 houses down, or any camera that's connected to a Wi-Fi for sure. To manipulate that during certain times, they use those oh God, what are they? Like scanner type. I had the whole list because I had to research it one time because I know they were getting into ours and kind of manipulating the footage, splicing it. But that was on our site, so it was easier for them to do that. What is it that you put in there? And it can mess up with the Wi-Fi.
Interrupter?
Well, that's one.
Shoot, I don't know. Like a jammer or something like that.
Thank you. Like jammers and all kinds of stuff. And not saying that.
Hell, I can barely plug in an extension cord behind my refrigerator. This stuff is so above me. Homestead, welcome. Did you get connected?
Thank you. Do I sound better?
You got it, girl.
Awesome. There's so many things on the top of my head, but here's one that just really gets my goat besides all the big ones. So, in the beginning, following this story, before they blocked their Facebook, Katie's picture was out there. She was all done up. She knows how to do her makeup well. Her hair was always done. But I noticed when they started doing these interviews that she looked like she come out of a shower and never did her hair. Her makeup is put on in such a way that exaggerates blushing or the look of crying. So to me, I felt like she was putting airs on. She wanted people to believe, and this is my opinion, of course. She wanted people to believe that she's an abused woman. She had no control over what Chris did with Sebastian because she's meek. She makes herself look meek, weak, even. Then I heard her resume come out. And listening to the resume, that she was in the military, that she has combat training, that she has some type of martial arts, that she's wicked smart, not just in communications. They even, the LinkedIn, I guess it's called, went so far as to say programming. When I heard that word programming, I said, hold on a second.
Well, and I hate to give her too much credit because she has been so deceptive, but I agree with everything you're saying, Homestead, because the resume is impressive. Now, I'm going to put you backstage, and I'm going to put Little Bit backstage for a second because we have Seth backstage, and I want to give him the stage. Okay, you guys?
Yeah.
Well, hello, Seth. Welcome, and I'm so sorry for what you're going through, all the frustrations and physical injuries and just the hurt in your heart. What's going on today?
Just got out of physical therapy. Now I'm in traffic. There's a lot that doesn't make sense with what's going on. There's just a lot that doesn't make sense. People. I listen to a lot of the podcasts, and I take everybody's opinion with a grain of salt. By the way, if you sent me your number to a Facebook, it is not me. I don't have social media. The only thing I have is YouTube.
Oh, well, crud. Okay.
So if you see a profile out there that says it's me, it's not me.
Well, damn. Okay. Somebody's got my phone number then.
So, well, whoever wants to be me, they don't realize what that entails, because I don't even want to be me right now. There's people that everybody has an opinion, but I don't have social media, so I don't really have to listen to their opinion.
No, you don't. You're doing the work. He's your son.
I just want to find it. That's all I want to do.
At what point did you start getting the suspicion that maybe you're not being told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth from Katie?
Pretty much day one, while I listened to her story, because she changed it multiple times.
Okay.
I mean, for the first 3 days, I was at their house until Chris decided that he wasn't going to. He didn't like my sister setting up a GoFundMe. He didn't like that, and it's like, well, you may not like it, but she asked, and I told her she could. And it wasn't for finding Sebastian or anything like that. It's my sister knew that I wouldn't go back to work because my son's missing. I got to find him. So the fact is that he didn't like it, and I had to deal with it. I'd like to think that neither one of them had anything to do with my son's disappearance, but they could always come, help pass out flyers, help search. I've never told them that they can't. They have just chose not to.
Well, what pisses me off is that, they can't get off their dead asses to go search, but they go sit at the damn Cracker Barrel. And they say it's because, the public's so mean to them. Well, I mean, aren't there people at the Cracker Barrel?
Yeah. It's allegedly somebody's leaking my address and my phone numbers out to people. I still don't have anybody showing up at my house until yesterday. I had somebody actually walking the street taking pictures of where I live. I stood on my front porch smoking a cigarette and just stared at them. I mean, welcome to the Constitution. You have the right to sit there and take pictures of my house from public property. You know,
Yeah,
that
how about it?
doesn't bother me at all. I don't hide anywhere. You'll find me. My truck's pretty noticeable.
I sent you a message in private chat with my email and phone number, by the way. Can you see that?
Yeah. See where it says one where I've got a message. Now I got two.
Now you got two. Look at that. You're popular.
More popular than I really ever wanted to be.
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. Have you been talking, I'm sure, regularly with law enforcement?
They're not going to give me any information. I got tired of giving them, because I was getting leads, and it was like I was giving them leads, but I believe that they're talking to Katie and Chris more than they're talking to me.
It seems to me because they have all the answers they need from you. There's a lot of questions about when you saw the video of Sebastian at the restaurant, what was he wearing?
Yeah, I got in trouble. I wasn't supposed to tell anybody that.
Okay, well then don't say anything. That's okay. Don't want to get you in trouble.
Well, I already got in trouble. I mean, trouble is one of my middle names.
Okay.
But
Do you know if they have searched the RV and their cars?
I have no idea. I know they haven't searched mine. I've literally told them they can search mine,
Now, what is all of this panic talk about polygraphs? You're in law enforcement. You know polygraphs, they're not admissible in court.
Nope.
They can be fooled. I understand you took one recently.
Yeah, they're still grading mine.
Why all the different stories from Chris Proudfoot? You know him better than we do. Why one day has he taken one? The next day, TBI said he didn't need to take one. Then he says he took one and passed. Then he said Nancy Grace lied to him.
Question that would be, I mean, just so many stories that you can't believe anything that the gentleman says. Took a polygraph at the beginning was Katie. I took one because Miss Grace asked me to. I don't know if he's taking one or not. I don't understand what it's like. I'd rather have still been that private person that I was before. I'd rather have never had to be on a podcast, never had to be asked an interview. I'd rather have been, my son live with me, me going to work, coming home, my son there. All this that's going on is just a lot of stress in my life that nobody really ever needs. But as I was told, better suck it up, Buttercup. So I did. I've never been one for interviews. So I enjoyed my private life, going to work, coming home, spending time with my son. And now I don't know if I'll ever get to spend time with him again.
How are you feeling physically? I know you said you had to go to physical therapy. Is that for your shoulder or just all the above?
Actually, it was for my neck. They said that my shoulder pain was being caused by my neck. So,
Christine Alaska wants to know how we can help.
best way to help is, besides keeping your head up and your eyes open, is passing out flyers. That's where tips and stuff come in because people might be seeing my son.
Let's light the chat up for Sebastian, please. Sebastian's Army. I see the godfather of the case has made it in. That is our friend Trevor. I'm sure you know Trevor, Seth.
Trevor Lee? Yeah, I know Trevor.
Any intuition, inkling, or anything where Sebastian could be?
I have my ideas. I just don't have the resources I need to track it. So, pretty much just winging it.
Are you getting any advice from the people you work for? I think his sound cut out a little bit. Okay, there you are. Think you're going to have to refresh your mic. Are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Okay, now we're back. Do you have any thoughts on Chris Proudfoot's family? Good, bad, or indifferent? His sister has made some kind of really strange statements, and his mom and stepfather, their goofy asses took off to Alaska right after Sebastian went missing.
Yep. I know they did. I know, for the person that for Maddie to be sitting there and making the comments that I heard that she made on Facebook about that's my grandson, and for her to turn around and disappear to Alaska with her husband Terry, that kind of actions speak louder than words. I've always been a person that believe actions speak louder than words.
You got that right.
So,
because you have a child in your family that you can't find. You don't go to Alaska. He's not in Alaska. Just like Katie going down to Mississippi with Chris, and she's like, well, because he could be anywhere. Trevor's in the chat. I put the link up, Trevor, if you want to come up. Trevor said Seth's actions speak volumes. He wants his son found.
Yeah.
Do you know if you can tell us, you can tell us. If you can't, we're going to understand. If law enforcement's looking into any connections to them running to Mississippi or Chris's goofy family running up to Alaska?
I don't know. I mean, I don't even know who's leading the investigation anymore. I don't know who's doing the investigations. I've looked on Sumner County website to see if my son was on there, and he's not even on there under their missing persons. So I don't know a lot of stuff anymore.
Well, hang on. Isn't he on the TBI website?
It is on the TBI website.
Trevor said they haven't even listed him on their open cases. How do you feel about that?
Oh, Sumner County or TBI?
Sumner County.
Well, my opinion on this matter is that the first 48 hours is the most important. And they just marked it as a runaway listening to his mother. They didn't take into effect that even though he's 15 physically, he's not 15 mentally. He has he's has autistic traits, and he's been diagnosed with autism, and then his chromosomal deletion. All of that, you know, mentally he's not 15. You know, maybe 10. And it took 3 days to get him as an Amber Alert. Their policies and procedures are not they're not designed for a child that is on the spectrum. And they should immediately have put him on the Amber Alert, and they should have definitely have investigated differently when it comes to the investigation part. The search and rescue is one thing. They did a lot for that. But they should have turned around and dusted for fingerprints, looked for anything that might have been out of the normal, you know. And they didn't do that. They failed my son.
I agree, because like you said, the first 48 hours is the most important. So why take her word? Why on earth did they not just conduct a proper investigation right off the bat?
Well, good question. Maybe their deputy chief could answer that question. But you know,
What did you see what came out last night on your local news with Nick Barris, where he said he spoke with law enforcement and said it's an investigation, but the DA won't do anything because they have no physical evidence? How can that even be possible?
well, and they have no physical evidence because they didn't do forensics. I mean, we're talking about they didn't tape off anything. They didn't come in. They didn't luminol the house. They didn't dust his room for fingerprints that wouldn't have belonged there. They didn't do a fucking shit.
Mm-hmm.
When it came to the investigation. They asked questions. Well, asking questions is fine if you're looking for a missing persons, but you don't know if, you know, that press conference was just wow.
I was a little disgusted by the press conference. Well, a lot disgusted. And I'm sure it was kind of quite the punch in the gut to you.
Oh yeah, because they said they don't have anything, and then they want to sit there and tell me that, get mad because I ask questions, and then tell me that they only want legitimate leads when I'm sending them everything, and I'm on legitimate leads. You guys don't have any leads. That's what you're telling me. It's what you're telling everybody else. I heard that telephone call with Chris on it. Oh, I rode around with them. They showed me this, they showed me that. Well, isn't that nice that you're not even a biological parent, and yet they turned around and showed you everything? Huh, kind of makes me wonder how much somebody got paid.
Same here, because he's the last one that should be riding around with them. It should be you.
Most of the time when you're doing a search and rescue for a child that's autistic, you'll have at least one of the parents, the biological parents, going with law enforcement because they could possibly scare the child and they need to hear a voice that is familiar to them. And yet, Katie didn't leave the house.
Mm-mm.
And they never once took me to go look for him.
It was very upsetting to all of us that instead of calling 911, she called Chris, who was supposedly 3.5 hours away and some change. Minutes count when you're looking for anything, but most importantly, a child. And she doesn't even leave the house. Why was she not knocking on doors? Why didn't she call you? You would have been out there in a heartbeat to find him.
They did call my phone. Chris called my phone and sent me a text message. Both of them knew I was at work. Why didn't they call Davidson County and ask to speak to my captain?
Mm-hmm.
My captain, they would have literally pulled me out of work immediately and I'd have been there instead of me being there, after I got off work. Doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. My son's not a runner anyways, and I tried to tell him that. But they don't want to listen to me. The state of Tennessee is, I have no faith in Sumner County. And the fact that they wanted me to actually come work for them, I ain't putting an application. I can't work for a department or an office that cannot. They still have my son's electronics. Why? Why do you still have his electronics? Give them back to me. Why is it that I have researched and found more information that I'm pretty sure that they haven't? They haven't looked at it at all. They don't have anything. From my understanding, besides having family that works there, they
Has
have.
the FBI been any help?
I've spoken with them, but it takes 60 days from the start of the case before you can request the FBI to come in and let the company or the organization that is doing the initial investigation ask for them to step in. And I personally believe that after 30 days, Sumner County not doing what they should have done at all, ever, they should have released it to TBI and asked them to come in and given TBI 30 days to fuck everything up and then ask the FBI to come in and actually do their job.
I mean, the FBI card unit at the least, because they have ways of knowing if he was abducted or not. That seems to be what Katie is leaning towards.
Yeah, she's leaning towards that now. 30 days later, maybe somebody took him. Well, they've had plenty of time to clean their house, haven't they? Plenty of time to destroy evidence that was there. So she had plenty of time to actually clean up any evidence before, we found out he was missing. Because we don't even know when he went missing.
No. Mm-mm. Do we even know where Chris Proudfoot truly was? Do we even know if Katie was at home?
We don't. We don't really know anything. We know approximately what time that they arrived back to the house. But, that would be looking at the video cameras. Chris and Katie have had plenty of access to those from all their neighbors. It took them 5 weeks to show me proof of life after I had spoken to him on Thursday. 5 weeks.
Do you know if EquiSearch has plans to come back anytime soon?
I have no idea. I have no idea. And I'm not really particularly fond of David Radar's comments. He hasn't been out handing flyers out.
I missed it. What did he say? I missed it.
You what, ma'am?
I said I missed it. What did he say? Because he's no Tim Miller. I'll say that for sure.
He had turned around and stated that he thinks it's ridiculous that somebody would threaten somebody who's looking for a 15-year-old kid. But my volunteers to hand out flyers have been followed. I've passed on license plate numbers to both Sumner County and TBI. And the press conference, they were like, oh, nobody's being threatened or, followed or anything like that. And then, yeah, David Radar wants to open his mouth. You were there with TBI agents, buddy. I've got civilians out here handing out flyers. I don't see you coming to hand out flyers.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the fact that they have drones and they can sit there and attempt to find my son. But what happened with this? They searched for 2 days last week. What's that? I mean, you searched for 2 days after what? After over a month of what? Not searching? I've gotten information from people that doesn't make sense. Rockland Park, for example. I get some cadaver dogs, and then bam, automatically they find a dead body. But TBI was there the day before searching. Well, did you not have any type of dog to go with you? No sniffers, no live dogs, no cadaver dogs. What? You just showed up and walked the. What kind of searching did you do? Doesn't make sense.
And what kind of a half-ass search is 2 days?
Good question.
2 whole days? What, to get donations and everything? That's crazy.
Well, I don't think they did any donations. I mean, it was Sumner County, TBI, and the FBI. They showed up to help search. Did they have a possible lead for where they were searching? I don't know.
Well, according to what came out on your local news last night with Nick Barris, and he spoke with the district attorney in Sumner County, he said when they are told by TBI where to search, they go right out there. Do you see them out quite frequently searching?
I don't know where they're going to search because I don't get that information. So
I mean, do the Bower Sox and Proudfoots have that kind of pull in that community?
I guess they do. I guess they do.
Well, have you thought about possibly getting an attorney to help you like navigate with law enforcement and get things in the works so that way when Sebastian comes home, he comes straight to you?
Thought about it. More along the lines of private investigators and things like that. I mean, I've already spoken with CPS, and I don't want him going back to their residence at all. He doesn't deserve to be treated like that. Nobody does.
You have found a lot of stuff out about his treatment just through listening to podcasts. I can't even imagine how that felt.
Listening to them make fun of the way he dances and the way he looks. I mean, seeing the reflection of the sneers in their facial expressions when they even talk about him. The fact that they can't even say his name.
I know it's a lot to take on, but, and I'm no attorney, so you would have to get this advice from an attorney. If you filed for, full custody of him right now, I don't know how that would go down considering the situation. Then law enforcement would have to deal with you and not them.
I'd have to find an attorney. I haven't actually been looking for one, so I guess I can turn around and look for an attorney. Something else to do too.
Well, you have a lot of love in this chat for sure.
I appreciate it.
I mean, I wish they would just lay the hammer down and say, you have until noon, which it's 11:49 here. I'm Central Time. I'm in Oklahoma. So you have until noon. I'll just throw out a number to produce Sebastian.
Yeah, I've never known people to react kindly to threats. I know I don't.
Well, I mean, if it's law enforcement saying, you're going to go to jail unless you produce your son.
Yeah, I don't know if they can do that. I mean,
I'm just throwing things out there, but I mean, I think an attorney would help you immensely. Getting custody of Sebastian would help you immensely. And then you can deal with law enforcement more than, them putting you on the side burner. Uh-oh, we lost Seth. Hang on. Well, it was nice having Seth up. We do stand behind him because he deserves to have his son. He deserves to have his son at his home. He deserves to have him safe. Well taken care of, well nourished. I mean, all the above. I feel horrible what he's being put through because he's really being put through the ringer right now. I'm going to reach out to Seth later this afternoon because I understand he has a lot of stuff going on. We'll see. You know, he's welcome to come here anytime he wants. We're going to keep Sebastian's name out there. Thank you for everyone that came on panel that is here today. Thank you so much for the donations to the channel. I can't tell you how much that means. And let me tell you what, this is tiring, painstaking, horrible. And I believe this community can help him with an attorney. So he's got some food for thought at least. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you, Mod Squad. I know there was a lot going on in chat. I could not believe we had some people trying to be ugly, ugly, ugly. And what? This is not ugly. Hush Pup gifted 50 Crime Lines and Lines memberships. Whoa. Tell you what, if you're not a member of this channel, you just must not be paying attention. Allow your gifts and come on. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Looks like now I'm in the hot seat, huh? Looks like we're going to have to do a members live this weekend. Maybe Seth can come on with us and we can speak more, quietly. Let's do that. I think that's a great idea. You guys are the absolute best. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Thank you so much for being here. Keep Sebastian's name out there, wherever you live. Let's just keep it going and keep it going and keep it going. I'm going to reach out to Trevor here in a little bit and see if he has any suggestions, see when he's going back. I'm going to invite Seth to CrimeCon. I'm going to be there at the end of next month. I think that would be really good for him to make some connections around CrimeCon, to speak to, other mainstream media possibly, but it's totally up to him. You guys are the absolute best. Again, TGIF. Thank you for being here. Let's light the chat up with green. Sebastian Strong. You guys are the best chat and best community on YouTube.